News only local, regional, and national sports show. It's time for The Game on ESPN 1400. For the next 2 hours, we'll get an in-depth look at local sports in the Eastern Upper Peninsula and Algoma region, and hear from the coaches and players involved in the game. We'll also analyze the college and pro sports scene across the region and dive into the biggest national stories. Now, let's get to the game and join your host, Scott Nason.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to The Game, heard live on ESPN 1400 in Sault Ste. Michigan and online at thegamesportshow.com. As the man said, my name is Scott Nason, broadcasting the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national sports show, The Game. Our broadcast engineer tonight is Alyssa Bradley. This is an abbreviated version of The Game. A couple of our contributors have full-time jobs and they can't be on the show tonight. So we're just going to do it an hour tonight, but most of the time we will have 2 hours, and we'll be joined by Butch Davis from Butch On Sports coming up at 6:40. But we have our first guest right here, and is a very familiar voice to listeners in the area. His name is Dave Watson, voice of the Sault High Blue Devils on our sister station, 1230 WSOO, somebody I've known for a very long time. Dave, thanks for joining us here on The Game.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for inviting me to come on, and also welcome aboard and congratulations. I was pumped when you told me that you were coming aboard here to Sovereign Communications, and really gives a shot in the arm to our sports department here at the family of radio stations we have here. And I was pretty happy to hear about it. Of course, you and I go back a long time, all the way back to roommates at the Frozen Four in 1992.
I know. I was going to mention that.
Yep. And, of course, I was very excited to hear about that, and it's going to be a lot of fun doing some sports with you here on this show. And, of course, we'll have you on Coach's Corner, and, of course, folks will hear him doing some Sault High games when I'm unavailable as well, and looking forward to all of that, and welcome aboard.
I appreciate that, David. It's great to be here on ESPN 1400 and, joining you guys. I know most of you guys, again, we go way back to 1992, my senior year in high school. I think your junior year in high school.
Something like that, yeah.
We went on the fan bus to Albany, New York, and boy, those are some fun times there. I want to start, Dave. We're going to get into the Sault High situation as far as football starting, but I wanted to get a background on your career in broadcasting. I texted you a couple weeks back about how long you've been doing broadcasts here for Sovereign Communications, Sault High Blue Devils. The first question I want to ask is, what got you into broadcasting? You're like me, you're a sports nut. We can talk sports all day, but what got you into the broadcasting world?
Well, when I was, a youngster, back even back to the days of when we were at the Knickerbocker Arena watching the Lakers, as Billy Crawford would call them, back in '92. Even going back beyond that, I always knew my athletic prowess wasn't where I'd want it to be be able to get there. And I absolutely am a sports nut. And my wife would say perhaps a little too much at times, but, sports sometimes consumes me even to this day. And I was like, you know what? I want to be around it, and maybe I can talk it. And I went to school for it. I went to college down around the east side of Cleveland, small Division III school, John Carroll University. Kind of worked my way. I ended up back home, and then John Bell gave me my first chance to doing games. I ran the board like Alyssa is doing now for quite a while. I had to earn my chops there. And then I remember it was Valentine's Day in 1998. Johnny Bell's Valentine's Day gift to me.
Wow.
All right, kid, go ahead. And it was a 3-3 tie, Sault High and Alpena in high school hockey. And so it's been 22 years overall.
Wow.
Of course, on this station back when they were separate. And then 05, I came aboard here at Sovereign with WSOO and been the singular voice of Sault High sports for 15 years. I've been doing Blue Devil basketball, girls and boys, for that whole 22-year stint. But since 05, I've been right here doing Sault High sports.
And, like myself, Dave, you have a full-time job. I have a full-time job. So this is a part-time job, and I think one of the coolest part-time jobs anyone can do. We get to go to sporting events and talk about them and even get paid from time to time. I mean, it's a fun thing to do. It's a great hobby as far as I'm concerned.
It is, and it's a lot of fun, and the people you get to meet between the kids you call the games and their parents, and I know you're the same way, Scott. I've had a lot of really good people, volunteers, color commentating or analysts, whatever you want to say, people with the schools, from Scott Menard to Pat Bennon at Sault High to Rick Corbier, does some hockey. Mike Boucher has been there with us a lot. Just some really good people and good relationships. Matt Parker, I mean, and Elisa Schulte did a lot of games with us, and friendships are developed, and you have a lot of laughs and a lot of good times along with doing these games.
Dave Watson joining us on the game, voice of the Sault High Blue Devils. Dave, this is the first day of practice for the fall sports season. I was walking by the athletic field and saw some players up in pads, and you're just a few weeks away from high school football. Just give us a snapshot on the Sault High Blue Devils coming into the 2019-2020 season. It still seems weird to say that. Team that was 5-4, close to making the playoffs.
One game shy.
Yeah, one game shy. Things are going to change a lot next year with how they're handling the playoffs, but it's still 6 wins and you're in. Just give us a little snapshot of Sault High going into this season.
I think there's a lot of optimism, Scotty, with the team going 5-4, and that was a young team last year. They did lose some key pieces, off last year's team, but there's still a lot of young talent there going into the year. You have the young sophomore quarterback, Jake Davey, that does not have the size perhaps you would like them to be a little bigger, but he makes up for it. He's more of I've said this last year, and I keep on saying his strongest point is his cerebral, what he brings cerebrally to the game.
Sure.
He's very smart. He reads plays, and he's not afraid to throw the ball. If he's got an open man, he doesn't panic. So often you see high school kids panic. So I think they're going to be all right. Yeah, exactly. I think they're going to be all right. He did fine as a freshman last year when they took the kid gloves off for him in that homecoming game that Matt Pocket did for us against Gladstone. He really came of age. The quarterback position is fine with him. Offensive line, I think they'll be all right. They got a couple holes they got to look at, but you have the Eddington kid and Dotriment the younger Dotriment fella coming back. That's going to help on that interior on both offensive and defensive. The one question mark is who's going to be your running backs.
Right.
You lose Tate K, who had a phenomenal year. Who's going to fill that hole? They have some good receivers. I heard Jack Swan had some really good catches in 7-on-7. There's some other guys there. They're looking for Basil Moran, I think, to be a leader. He's a hard hitter defensively. And defensively, you look at Moran, I think he's going to probably fit in a linebacker. I think they'll be all right there. And the other thing you look at, the fact that this team this year, look at the things that it sets up nicely for them from a schedule standpoint. 6 home games.
Right. 6
of the 9 games are at the Van Sitters Field.
Win your home games, you're in the playoffs.
Yep, you win the home games, you're in the playoffs. It's a tougher schedule.
Yes, it is.
I mean, they were able to go get Ludington that's going to come up here. They were a playoff team last year.
Yes.
They'll come up here in week 8. Rogers City comes up here. They want to crack at them because that's the game. If they would have beat Rogers City, they're in the playoffs, and they lost that game down there. And that was a good Rogers City team, but that's a game they should have won. And Rogers City comes up here in week 7. And of course, you got the Sheboygans and, Alpena on the road. The 3 road games are Alpena week 2. And then I think week 6, they go to Happy Rock to play Gladstone. And then they finish up everything in week 9 in the Alpine Village against Gaylord. And Petoskey's back in the schedule this year at home week 4. Ogama Heights on that Saturday afternoon game you might do there for me, the one game I can't do. And then that pretty much fills it out. Week 3, Marquette comes over here. They're rebuilding a little bit. They lost their really good receiver Martish to graduation, so we'll see how the Redmen are. But I'm optimistic about the season. If they take care of the bulk of their home games and sneak out a win at an Alpena or Gladstone, which will be tough, they'll be right there.
Sault High starts the season at home, Dave, as you mentioned, August 30th against Sheboygan. Looking at their schedule, obviously geography always makes it tough for the Sioux to have a natural rival. Would you say Sheboygan's still their biggest rival in high school football, or is somebody kind of taken their place?
I'd say it's Sheboygan, and it was, we looked at it as a rivalry. That I think they looked at us to steal a line from Mike Hart as the little brother, because for decades, they would come in and smoke Sault High, win by 40, 50 points back in the days when we went to high school.
Right.
And I think, matter of fact, I don't remember them winning the whole time I went to a game as a kid.
I don't think
I was at college. I remember I talked to my dad. Well, Sault High beat Sheboygan last night. They did in 96, and that was the first time I think since the early 70s.
Yeah.
So that tells you something. But the tide has turned a little bit. The last several years, it's been Sault High dominating that, as far as that rivalry. And so it probably is more of a rivalry for the Chiefs now, because Sault High's had the better of them. And they've had some things going on in Sheboygan. Jack Kuhn, of course, stepped down, retired, and that program always was very stout, and they've kind of lost a little bit. But, they were tough last year. Sault High won a game in a rainstorm, if you remember, down in Sheboygan. Game plans out the window.
Wasn't it?
Low scoring. Welcome to high school football and varsity football, Jake Davey. You get to play in a blinding rainstorm.
Right.
And he did a nice job. They just hang on to the football. I think they won 6-0. Sheboygan actually played well in their league after that. And nearly, I don't know if they made the playoffs. I don't think they did, but they came close. Yeah. I think they went 4-5, 5-4, something like that. So they improved after that game. So I think this one will be a tough one to open up the season.
You can hear Sault High football again on our sister station, 1230 WSOO, and also Coach's Corner. Dave, I know we were talking about that before we came on the air, looking for the first show being August 31st, correct?
Yeah, and originally I told the station, and I heard them promoting it, I was thinking August 24th, but Coach Menard, I like to open up with him.
Absolutely.
And he's unavailable that day. So I said, we'll just push it back to after that first Sheboygan game. So August 31st, 11:05 a.m., we'll have Scott on. And, of course, Coach's Corner will go every Saturday all the way through. And we're different than your show. We're just stick to the local stuff for the most part. Sometimes I'll delve into the regional and national stuff and if I need some fill. And, of course, after week one, we do what we call the Scores That Matter.
Yep.
And we cover as many scores as I can find. It takes me about an hour and a half before I have breakfast to compile them.
Sure.
From the UP to Northern Lower Michigan, anything that's pertinent to Sault Ste. Marie and our teams, I try to find it, and also Sault, Ontario as well. And that goes, of course, after the first week, because actually we'll do it the first week because that'll be after the football game. So we'll have at least a few scores to have, and we cover Lake State and all that stuff. So yeah, we start that August 31st, and always a fun time to do Coach's Corner. That's been around a long time.
It really has. Yeah, absolutely. Dave, of all the Sault High sports that you broadcast, I'm curious, which sport do you enjoy broadcasting the most? Is there one that stands out, or do you like them all?
My favorite sport is football. And, so if you look at it from, I guess if you want to break it down into different pieces, football is my favorite. Mm-hmm. And it always has been. And then, after that, I love baseball. And I love calling baseball. Of course, the last 2 years we haven't been able to because
been tough.
Mother Nature has not been kind to us in the Eastern Upper Peninsula in the Sioux area. But and then, hockey and basketball are kind of tied. Now, if you look at what I think I'm strongest at, I think I'm strongest at the fast up-tempo sports. So hockey and basketball. It feels, you can feel it. You know what I agree, referring to.
Yep.
But football for me, it's always been king. And it's always fun to do all of them. But I really enjoy doing football, and especially with it being the first sport, you look forward to it.
Dave, some rule changes in football from the MHSAA. One that I was real curious about was talking about implementing a 40-second play clock to improve the pace of play this year. All varsity games will be played with a 40-second play clock that begins after the conclusion of the previous play, except when there's an exception, a penalty, a timeout. In those circumstances, a 25-second shot clock will start with the referee's ready to play whistle. This is something we really haven't seen as far as an actual clock to keep that. I mean, how do you think that's going to affect, maybe some of these schools do they have to put these clocks in visible? Is it going to be something timed on the field? I mean, this is something I think could be very interesting.
That's a good question for, you just gave me my first question for Coach Bedard in a couple of weeks. That's very interesting. I heard some about that, and you make a good point. How are they going to, how is it going to be visible? Is it going to be like soccer referees?
Right.
I know you're a big, good thing Pocket's not around. He'd be looking for a game on the pitch somewhere, tried to say he's on over in Europe. But, it's going to be interesting because I think early on you're getting a lot of delay of games because the kids aren't used to it.
Right.
So it's a good idea, but I think you can ease it in a different way than just to say, boom, here it is.
Couple other rule changes in football focusing on safety. Tripping a ball carrier that is intentionally using the lower leg or foot to obstruct a runner below the knees now will result in a 15-yard penalty. The definition of horse collar tackle has also been expanded to including grabbing of the nameplate area on the back of the jersey, along with the inside of the neck area of the jersey or shoulder pads to bring a runner to the ground, horse collar tackling, also penalized with a 15-yard personal foul. So really no surprises there. No. They're trying to make the game safer. We see a lot of news in the NFL about that lately. It's happening at the high school level as well.
Well, and you know, I was very surprised at how they are with the concussions, and they're very careful with the, you know, injuries with the young people, you know, out there as on the football field. But they've always been kind of liberal, in my opinion. I don't know what you think, Scott.
I think so too.
With the horse collar.
I agree.
And I think that's as dangerous as you're going to get, because you're talking about a whiplash effect. You grab a guy, right, and yank him back, and these kids are strong. I mean, now you're looking at the neck area, you're going to have problems. So I was surprised that they haven't addressed that, because I would say it during the game. It's like, boy, that should be a 15-yarder. And no, because they really haven't had it addressed as far as defined, I guess, as far as with the horse collar. So I'm glad that's a good move there.
Looking at 8-player football, Dave, in the area, obviously Pickford is the team to beat, a team that made the final last year. They return a lot of players. Would you agree that Pickford is the overwhelming favorite, or is there another team or two maybe that you have to watch out for in the UP?
I would have to think they're the odds-on favorite. Obviously, they're dominant coming in. I mean, they got a lot coming back, a lot of talent coming back. The Bush kid will be coming back from that, you know, leg injury he had at the end of the year, which I kind of wondered why he was in the game when he got hurt, because it was a rainstorm. I know it's against their arch rival Cedarville. It was at the end of the season, and I think he got hurt fourth quarter, something like that. It was later in the game, but he's coming back. That's big, and they just have a lot of talent. They got to be the odds-on favorite. I think the dark horse teams for me is, you know, look out for Engadine. Engadine's always sneaky good. Always tough. They're always sneaky good. And, you know, Cedarville last year surprised a lot of people. And semifinals. And they were in that other division. Right. And, you know, the problem is the lower peninsula teams are not up to snuff with the upper peninsula 8-man teams. So when you split it off a little bit, and Pickford had a little bit of a tougher run, I thought, and they did play the one lower peninsula team that I said all along, Sutton's Bay. I told Matt when he did the game, I said, that's upset alert. And Sutton's Bay nearly clipped them. But Cedarville was in that easier division, but still, you know, Scotty Bart does a great job with that program, and I think you know, you have to look out for them too down the road this year. You know, the other thing too is it's expanding with 8-man football. Newberry, I see,
Newberry's in this year.
Is 8-man. St. Ignace is this close.
They're hanging on by a thread.
They're hanging on by a thread. They don't want to do it, but it's inevitable, I think, you know, for them. You have Rudyard. It's good for these schools up here, like the Pickfords, the Brimleys, because now they have schools closer to them that they can play. And that's the other part of the problem is you might have the numbers, Scott. I mean, you remember Chuck Bennon ran into this with Pickford. He had the numbers to play 11-man. Trouble was he had to go 3-4 hours to find the closest game.
Right. That's
the other problem you'll run into. So it's going to be interesting with 8-man, but I agree. It's got to be Pickford. They got to be going into as the dominant favorite.
Dave Watson joining us on the game. Dave, we got a few more minutes in your segment here. Wanted to talk about your favorite, if you have one. What's your best broadcasting memory or game at this point? Is there one that sticks out, or is there several?
Well,
we only have time for one.
Okay, I only have time for one. You're really making me think about this. I would have to say, if you're going to make me pick one, I'm going to have, if Pat Bennon and some folks are listening, well, what about this one? What about that one we called? What about that? If you're going to bring me down to one, I'll say the 2012 Sault High boys basketball team, regional semis against Standish Sterling.
At home?
At home.
Yep, I was at that game.
And remember the buzzer beater? They were down 1 or 2, or I think it had to have been 1, because it ended up being the game winner. And it was a full court play. And I think, for my money, and I've been around a long time, and I would put him in as all-time, as one of the all-time great point guards in Sault High history and throughout the Upper Peninsula. Steve Angeli got the ball, dribbled down the floor, and just a perfect play down the right lane going towards the south end basket. And he had Lucas Krupa on his left, if you remember, and he ran right stride for stride with him, and a beautiful pass right under the basket. put it right up through the nylon and the horn sound, and that was the game. And then it was like a college atmosphere. Remember the students came rushing
fantastic.
down. That one, that gave me chills. It still does, thinking about it. I mean, that was in there. And I've had a lot of great memories because we've had some really good teams up there on Marquette Avenue over the years, hockey to basketball to football. Of course, girls basketball a few years ago. Shane Thompson in Sault High baseball made a couple nice runs. But it's been fun. But that one there, that sticks out. If you're going to hold me to one, I'll have to say that.
I like it. Great game and a great call as well. Dave Watson joining us on the game. Again, you can hear him on our sister station, 1230 WSOO, all season long for Sault High Athletics. The first game will be at home August 30th against Sheboygan. You also have Coach's Corner on Saturday afternoons at 11:05 on 1230 WSOO. Dave, first time I was ever on a sports show on the radio was yours, Coach's Corner, many years ago. I appreciate that launched a part-time career, and I appreciate it and love to have you on again.
Well, and we're going to have you on down the road on Coach's Corner as a guest and maybe a guest host too down the road. I'm looking forward to that. Thanks, Scott. And again, I'm pretty excited about you being over here. I think this is a good thing for us, and happy that it worked out for you. And your show is sounding great, and it's a perfect spot to put it on 1400 that was yearning for some local stuff. And you guys, you and Butch, and of course the good folks at Sault, Ontario you work with there do a great job. And I've already liked listening to the show already. It's a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to working with you down the road.
Appreciate it, Dave. Thanks for coming in.
All right.
We're going to take a break here on The Game. We come back. We have more local sports to talk about. That's coming up next on The Game. Heard online at thegamesportshow.com and live right here on ESPN 1400.
Looking for the lowest prices and the best deals on quality used cars, trucks, or SUVs? Look no further than Rodenroth Motors. We have the largest selection of quality pre-owned certified vehicles ever, all priced below book, and all come with a 12-month, 12,000-mile warranty. It's our way of standing behind what we sell and guaranteeing you that you'll get the highest quality pre-owned vehicle only at Rodenroth Motors. Stop in and check out our largest selection ever. With prices starting at $49.95, I'm sure we'll have something for you. Don't forget to look for the hang tag specials. These units are clearly priced at or near dealer cost. Just another way we can save you even more money. Come see why all roads lead to Rodenroth Motors for Chevy, Buick, and GMC, the #1 volume dealer in the Eastern UP, at the corner of 3 Mile and Mackinac Trail in beautiful Sault Ste. Marie. Find us on the web or like us on Facebook. Chevy, find new roads.
When it comes to your family's medical equipment needs, you want the best care possible. Arfstrom Pharmacy Equipment and Supplies is here to help. The caring and knowledgeable staff will take the time to get to know their customers, understand their needs, and help them on a path to better health.
Hi, this is Andrew Miller, manager of Arfstrom Medical Equipment and Supplies. We truly want to be a trusted healthcare resource that cares for you and your family. We are always looking to carry new and improved products to enhance your daily living. We are now stocking the Hurricane Freedom Edition, the all-terrain cane, the cane that stands alone. Also, we proudly stock BioFreeze Professional Strength Topical Pain Reliever and gel, roll-on, and spray options. The Professional Strength formula contains more of the active ingredient menthol, providing an improved and longer-lasting therapeutic effect compared to the original formula found at other retailers. Stop in and see why so many people choose Arfstrom to be their medical equipment and supplies provider.
Arfstrom Medical Equipment and Supplies is part of Arfstrom Pharmacy, a locally owned Health Mart pharmacy, ACHC accredited, located at 409 Ashland Street, downtown Sioux, Michigan. Health Mart, caring for you and about you.
Overacting?
Once more into the breach, dear friends, once more. Or close the wall up with our English dead. In peace, there's nothing.
Underacting.
Once more into the breach, dear friends, once more, or close the wall up with our English dead. It doesn't take a theater director to tell the difference between overacting and underacting, but it's not as easy knowing whether you're overinsured or underinsured. A low rate isn't a good thing if everything you hold dear, your family, your home, your future, isn't protected properly. That's why you have Farm Bureau of Michigan agent Dean Garlinghouse to take the drama out of making sure you have the coverage you need. Insurance is Dean's life. Trust your future to Dean Garlinghouse to avoid poor coverage.
Alas, poor Yorick, I knew him, Horatio. A fellow of infinite jest, a most excellent fancy.
Oy. So you can get on with your life. Call Dean Garlinghouse at Farm Bureau Insurance today.
You can catch podcasts of the game at thegamesportshow.com. Now let's get back to it with Scott Nason here on ESPN 1400.
And welcome back to the game, live on ESPN 1400 and heard online at thegamesportshow.com. Scott Nason broadcasting from the ESPN 1400 studios on 3 Mile. I want to thank our guest, Dave Watson, for joining us. You can hear Dave again starting here in a few weeks with Sault High Blue Devil football. The Blue Devils will start the season August 30th at home against Sheboygan, and then Coach's Corner will be starting on Saturday, August 31st at 11:05. Both those broadcasts and Sault High Blue Devil broadcasts you can hear at 12:30 WSOO. Well, it is the first day of practice for the fall sports season, as Dave and I alluded to in the last segment. And there have been some changes in some of the other sports. We talked about the football rule changes. Another change that happened this year was normally in past years, high school football practice sessions would start first on a Monday, and then the other fall sports would start on Wednesday. Not anymore. Now all the sports begin on Monday, today, August 12th. So the 2019-2020 season is upon us, if you can believe that. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be covering a lot of sports here on the game. Of course, local sports with high school football. We also talk about the other high school sports, cross country, boys soccer, golf, swimming. We're going to talk about all of those sports this year and looking forward to that and broadcasting some of those sports. We'll have the EUP Game of the Week on our sister station, Oldies 93, with Matt Pocket. And that will start here in a couple weeks. Also on Friday, August 30th, as Matt will be in Pickford, as the Panthers will take on Crystal Falls Forest Park. So the high school sports season is here, and we are excited at the game to talk about those and more. We talked last week with Sioux Eagles head coach Doug LaPrade on the game. You can hear the podcast of last week's broadcast and all our broadcasts in a couple places. You can go to thegamesportshow.com or go to the podcast page, thegamesportshow.com, .podbean.com. As Doug gave us an update on the 2019-2020 season, as the Eagles have signed 12 players from last year, and they could potentially have more players come back depending on how the North American Hockey League camps turn out. But right now, they have several key players returning to this season's squad, which will begin quicker than you think. In that, Shane Brancato will be back. Brancato had a 13-7-3 record last year in the regular season with a save percentage of .928. The Eagles have also committed to goaltender Ryan Gilmore out of Lansing. He was a first-team All-State player last year in Division I. As Doug confirmed last week, on defense, the Eagles return with 3 from last year. Hayden Clark will be back for his third season, along with Richard Boulware and Cam Parrott. Kyle Quinn, key player from last season. He's another returning player, and he can play both on the blue line and forward. So you'll see him kind of play both. Coach LaPrade's looking for a lot of more players, obviously, in the defensive category. The Eagles have also committed to defensive player Malik Ali. At forward, the Eagles returned several key players, including Sioux, Michigan native Bobby Price, who will be back with the Eagles this year. Sioux, Ontario natives Caleb Wood, Raph Praisner, and Owen Shire will also be back for this season's Eagles squad, along with George Orfanos, Dominic Scarella, and Ryan Dax. So the Eagles get a lot of players back. Potentially could get 1 or 2 more, depending on how the NAHL camps turn out. And we are very excited to cover Sioux Eagles hockey here on ESPN 1400. The season opener will be on September 7th at the John Rhodes Community Center. And our first broadcast here on ESPN 1400 will be Saturday, September 21st, as the Eagles will take on the Sioux Thunderbirds. And one other news and notes from last week's broadcast, the Eagles will now have affiliate players with the AAA teams around, well, really the country. Eagles didn't have that ability last year. They're the only team in the league that was not allowed to have affiliate players, but now all the American-based teams playing in the Canadian Junior Hockey League, there's 5 of them, only 1 in the NLJHL. They'll all be able to have affiliate players, which will really help out when you have injuries. The Eagles had a lot of injuries late last season, and they didn't have a whole lot of players that they could use. now you have some affiliate players, and that's definitely good news. Well, the Northern Ontario Junior Hockey League announced their preseason schedule. As of this point, we don't have the Sioux Eagles or Sioux Thunderbirds preseason schedules. The Thunderbirds will have their tryout camp coming up here in the next couple weeks, but the preseason will get underway in a couple weeks. Actually, next week. Wow, time flies when you're having fun. Wednesday, August 21st, as Timmins will take on the Kirkland Lake Gold Miners. Kirkland Lake will travel to Cochrane to take on the Cochrane Crunch on August 22nd. Rayside Balfour at Powassan, August 25th. You have Espanola at French River, August 27th. Timmins will take on the Pelham Panthers of the GOJHL. That one on Wednesday, August 28th. French River at Espanola on Thursday, August 29th. And Powassan at Rayside Balfour on Friday, August 30th. So that's the preseason schedule. The preseason schedule that has been announced as of this point. And again, we're waiting to see if the Thunderbirds and Eagles will play. Many years they've played a couple games to start the season. Obviously, travel a little easier for them. And hey, why not start the border battle earlier? Sioux Greyhounds, well, they're going to hold their main camp later on this month. Looks like the week of August 26th, as the Sioux Greyhounds blue-white game will be on August 30th, and then they're scheduled for an exhibition game at Sudbury on August 31st. The Sioux Greyhounds, they're also going to play an exhibition game in Chatham against Sarnia on September 12th. Their lone home exhibition game will be on Sunday afternoon, September 15th against Sudbury. And the regular season opener for the Hounds will be on Friday, September 20th against the Flint Firebirds at the Memorial Gardens. You can hear all Greyhounds games on our sister station, Rock 101, with Jerry Liscombe Jr. A player on the Greyhounds has been playing hockey here in August. Ryan O'Rourke, who was participating for Team Canada in the 2019 Hlinska Gretzky Cup. Well, Team Canada did well, but they did fall to Team Russia in the final in that tournament by the score of 3-2. So Team Canada gets the silver. Russia wins their first gold medal since 1995. Now, this is one of the premier tournaments for under 18 prospects. Used to showcase some of the top players in the world, whether they are well-known names or not, or prospects that haven't received the attention they deserve, at least as of yet. And Ryan O'Rourke definitely deserves attention, and he's getting some as well. The Sioux Indians midget AAA squad, they're going to have their training camp begin at Lake Superior State University on Sunday, August 25th at 10 a.m. inside their locker room at the Taffly Able Arena. They're going to be doing their skating at the Big Bear Arena that Sunday at 1 p.m. as the ice will not be ready at LSSU. And the schedule has been released on their website. We'll go through some of their schedule here. They will start the season September 6th, 7th, and 8th away at the Maha Tier 1 Showcase. Their home opener will be on September 14th against CompuWare. The Indians will also participate in the Blaine Showcase. They'll be home to Tri-State Spartans on September 28th and 29th. They'll also be at the Honey Bake Tournament. They'll be traveling to CompuWare, Honey Bake, Victory Honda, Fox Motors, the usual cast of characters in a very tough league. Sioux Indians definitely don't schedule light, and they play a lot of good teams, including Little Caesars. That's always a fun one to watch here at home. That'll be on December 14th and 15th. They'll also be at another Honey Bake Showcase and more, and you can check out their schedule. Just look up the SiouxIndiansAAA.com, and you will find all that. Well, we mentioned the high school football season. Again, Matt Pocket on Oldies 93 will have the EUP Game of the Week this season, which will start August 30th against Pickford, as Pickford will host Crystal Falls Forest Park, and Dave Watson will have the Sault High Blue Devils at August 30th against Sheboygan on WSOO. Laker volleyball news. The team was ranked 6th in the North Division in the 2019 GLIAC Volleyball Preseason Coaches Poll, which was announced last week. In the poll, the Lakers are ranked number 6 in the North Division with 14 voting points. The top team in the North is Ferris State. They had 61 votes and 8 first-place votes. The number 1 team in the South Division is Ashland with 57 voting points and 9 first-place votes. Lake Superior State is improving under third-year head coach Dave Schmidlin in 2019. After finishing 3-22 in his first season in 2017, Lakers improved a bit in 2018, going 5-22. They also went to a decisive fifth set 13 times last season. The Lakers will begin the season with 8 non-conference matches, including 7 matches against teams from the Northern Sun Intercollegiate Conference, highlighted by matches against top 10 opponents, Southwest Minnesota State and Minnesota Duluth in the Michigan Tech tournament. Also take on Southwest Minnesota State, and the Lakers regular season opener will be an exhibition match against Alma on September 3rd at the Bud Cooper Gymnasium. The Lakers will start conference play against Fair State, which finished last season ranked 14th in NCAA Division II inside Bud Cooper Gymnasium on September 20th. The Lakers will return 9 student athletes who saw action in 2018. They are joined by 2 redshirt freshmen and 10 new student athletes, including 1 transfer and 9 freshmen. Of the key returners is outside hitter senior Amanda Reed, who set career highs in kills last season with 310, kills per set, digs per set, and points. Another returner who had an impactful freshman campaign last season is sophomore setter Haley Gruke. Gruke was second on the team in assists with 345. She also had 33 kills and 70 digs last season. And as a defensive specialist, sophomore Abby Bachon played in 27 matches for Laker volleyball. So that season again will begin here in a few weeks. Laker Athletics will also have several teams begin in September. Cross country, they're going to have their first event on September 7th at the Northwood Cross Country Invitational. Men's and women's golf, they'll start their season at Saginaw Valley State in the Fall Invitational. Women's tennis, they're going to start on Saturday, September 14th inside the Student Activity Center, inside the North Center against Michigan Tech. And then, of course, coming up later on this year, Laker hockey, which will begin October 5th and 6th against Merrimack. You can hear those games with Bill Crawford on our sister station, 99.5 Yes FM. And Laker men's and women's basketball, the women will begin at home against Rochester College on October 29th. And the men at home against Rochester on November 2nd. You can hear Laker basketball right here with David John on ESPN at 1400. Well, we're going to have Butch Davis join us here in a few minutes to talk about what's going on in the Detroit sports scene. The Lions, they had their first preseason game last Thursday. Didn't quite go their way, and that's an understatement. We'll talk to Butch about that. We'll also talk about the Detroit Tigers. The Tigers with a split this weekend, which is a good thing for the Tigers. They haven't had many splits this year. The Detroit Tigers are struggling in the AL Central Division, as many comparisons are being made to this being the worst Tigers team of all time. Well, you don't have to go far back for that. You go back to 2003 when the Tigers lost 119 games. Right now, the Tigers sit 35-80. So I believe they had 43 wins that year. So they need to get only 9 more wins to avoid that dubious distinction. I'd like to think in a month and a half that the Detroit Tigers could get 9 more wins. We'll see about that. It depends who they're playing, but it has not been a good year for the Detroit Tigers at all. Detroit Pistons had some news today. We'll talk more about Butch with some of these topics and more, but their schedule was released today. And you can hear Detroit Pistons basketball right here all season long on ESPN at 1400. Some of the highlights of the schedule. Opening night will be Thursday, October 24th against the Atlanta Hawks. 2 home games against the NBA champion Toronto Raptors. Still seems weird to say NBA champion Toronto Raptors. Those will be on Wednesday, December 18th and Friday, January 31st. Always a popular matchup. I actually went to this game last year. The Pistons actually beat Golden State last year at home, although you wouldn't know it. 2/3 of the crowd was Golden State fans. The Warriors will make their only appearance at Little Caesars Arena on Friday, March 20th. And then a matchup against LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and the Los Angeles Lakers. Yes, that seems a little odd to say as well. That'll be on Sunday, March 22nd, And the guy getting a lot of hype, Zion Williamson, and his New Orleans Pelicans will take on the Pistons on Monday, January 13th. So those are some of the highlighted games for the Detroit Pistons. And we'll talk about that with Butch and more coming up in our next segment. Our final segment here on this abbreviated edition of the game. we come back, we're going to talk to Butch Davis from Butch On Sports to get his thoughts on what's going on in the Metro Detroit sports world and more. Coming up next on The Game, heard online at thegamesportshow.com and live right here on ESPN 1400.
O'Connor's Chrysler Dodge Truck and Jeep in Pickford is your full-service dealership, servicing Pickford and the surrounding areas with pride for more than 50 years. O'Connor's top-notch body shop includes a state-of-the-art frame straightener. O'Connor's is also a proud supporter of community events. Its sales team has the experience to know which model is right for each customer. And with financing available to back your purchase, you can drive away today in your dream vehicle. Local people, local pride. Stop in today on M129 at O'Connor.
Reed Metals in Dafter, family owned and operated for over 35 years, is your honest, main source, one-stop metal recycling business serving northern Michigan. Bring your unwanted scrap metal or scrap vehicles to Reed Metals and they'll print you a check. Reed Metals is open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Saturdays from 8:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Reed Metals will pay you for items like scrap vehicles, heavy equipment, catalytic converters, radiators, vehicle batteries, aluminum rims, copper, brass, lead, tin, auto cast, aluminum, steel, and many more types of recyclable metals, and they'll print you a check with your name on it. Reed Metals is the place that will give you great service and an honest price without surprise fees or deductions at the scale. Visit reedmetals.com or call 906-632-0018. Bring it in or have it hauled, and Reed Metals will print you a check with your name on it. Reed Metals, located just 11.5 miles south of the Sioux on South Mackinac Trail.
Paul Thompson here with Gaylor Thompson Sales and Service just off I-75 in Rudyard, inviting you to stop in and see the largest selection of equipment in the eastern Upper Peninsula. To complement our full line of Mahindra tractors, we have trailers including goosenecks, dumps, cargoes, car haulers, and utility trailers. We also have a full line of lawn and garden equipment with Cub Cadet and Exmark. Over 50 mowers to choose from, a full line of parts, and we service what we sell. Looking for an outdoor wood or pellet furnace or parts? We stock water pumps, exchangers, PEX supplies, and more. Also, check out our full line of Boss and Fisher snow and ice equipment. Here at Gaylor Thompson and Rudyard, we are open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and Saturdays, 9 to noon for your convenience. Just off I-75 in Rudyard, 30 minutes from the bridge. If you need it, we have it. Give us a call at 906-478-3026. Hope to see you here.
Let's get back to the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national sports show. Let's get back to the game on ESPN 1400.
Welcome back to The Game, live on ESPN 1400 and online at thegamesportshow.com. Scott Nason broadcasting from the studios of ESPN 1400 on 3 Mile in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. Our broadcast engineer tonight, Alyssa Bradley, doing a great job as always. And our next guest is here, co-host and weekly contributor of The Game, Butch Davis. And you can hear his show, Butch On Sports, on the podcast page, Simply Butch2. That's TOO.podomatic.com, or you can find his shows right here at thegamesportshow.com as Butch joins us each and every week to give us an update on what's going on in the Metro Detroit sports world. Butch, how you doing on this Monday night, my friend?
We're doing.
Well, Butch, let's start talking about the Detroit Tigers. They had a good weekend this weekend, all things considered, how things have been for them as they split a 4-game set with the Kansas City Royals. The Tigers are off tonight, and they will resume action tomorrow at home against Seattle. Butch, 35-80, the Tigers' record obviously stands out as something not good. What have you seen over the past week, and what's going on with the Detroit Tigers?
You're a very gracious man when it comes down to somebody being good. I thought there was a slop jar that I saw there Saturday and Sunday, along with colleagues here. It just can't be repeated over the air here. But what I saw was bad defense. I saw 3 fielders colliding each other here like the Three Stooges. I saw one guy dive for a ball knowing good and well he shouldn't dive. I saw a pitcher throw a ball in the hole and allow other runs to score. I mean, still
getting all choked up about those Tigers, Butch.
I got to hit my doggone mute button here.
I lost Butch there. Butch,
okay, I got it now here.
There we go.
Boy.
Go ahead.
Okay. just really, it was ridiculous. It was really ridiculous here, what we saw there. And this was Saturday and Sunday. First two games they did win, mistakenly. Had some good games there. Almost put one in the can, but again, 2 wins is 2 wins. The Tigers stink this weekend. They were very gracious. People were very gracious on Saturday to give them 25,000 people. On Sunday, it reminded me Sandlot game where people were just scattered everywhere here. But it was very embarrassing indeed there for the Detroit Tigers. However, just fresh in my mailbox today, the Tigers released their 2020 schedule.
Oh, wow.
Featuring 81 games. Boy, just run, don't walk to get your season tickets for this one, boys and girls here. They'll be playing interleague contests with San Francisco, San Diego, Colorado Rockies, and, of course, their home-and-home series with the Pittsburgh Pirates there.
Butch,
120 seasons, going on 121.
And that was going to be my next question. Butch, before we get to that, talking to Alyssa here and just heard from E.J. Russell in Escanaba. He is available at 7:30, so guess what? Your wish is granted. We're going to do the full 2-hour show tonight just like that.
Very good there. There is a guy.
If you would have heard the in-between commercials conversation, it's probably a good thing for myself that we are. Butch, looking at this.
Chocolate chip cookies don't help either here, man.
Butch, the Tigers. Yes, indeed. Butch, the Tigers in 2003 had 119 losses. The current Tigers would have to win, I think, 9 more games to avoid that dubious distinction. And there's been talk that is this the worst Tigers team in recent memory? 2003, I'm not sure if you were in Detroit at that time, but compare that team to this team if you can. Both were bad, but is there one that was more bad than the other?
The 2003 team, I believe, that was the year where, that was, who was the manager there?
Alan Trammell.
I
think it was Alan Trammell.
It was Alan Trammell. It was someone else before Alan Trammell, I do believe. It was someone's cousin. His cousin is on the California Angels there. Boy. And he's a good hitter. Now, get that last name together and I'm good.
Okay, well, you go ahead. I'll try to look that up. I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Okay. It could have been Alan Trammell. Alan Trammell was around at that point in time there. But I do believe the other one, and I'm steadily looking for this particular guy's name here.
I think I got it here, Butch. In 2002, it was Phil Gardner and then Louis Pujols. In 2003.
Yeah, there you go, Pujols.
Yeah. But Trammell was Louis 2003.
Yeah,
yep.
Exactly. That was the one. That's the name I was trying to get. Of course, his cousin is on the California Angels there. His nephew now, I do believe that. Is the Pujols on the California Angels.
Right.
That is his nephew. And matter of fact, I had injured him. I mean, not injured him, but I interviewed him one-on-one that particular year when I first came here, which was my 3rd year here in Michigan there. But the number's taken, but it's just a bad team. It's a bad team. And I feel bad for the fans who could have, easily did some other things. Instead, they came down to the Tiger game expecting good things to happen. They had Negro League ceremonies on the field. It was just to me, it was a total wreck. But again, I can think of my uncle Marvin Jones, who was a former Negro League baseball player for the Kansas City Monarchs, laughing his head off here, because I used to kind of like wheel him on the field when they had introduction ceremonies during this particular time there. And I'll send you a picture of that, a couple of them there. But this is ridiculous here. I don't know what to say about the Tigers in general here, but maybe you have better words. Maybe you did have better words to say about them, but it just don't right here.
It isn't, Butch. I mean, I don't think there's much more that can be said. They're an awful team, and this rebuild is going to take a lot of time. There's hope in the minor leagues a little bit, but it's going to be a while before that. Moving from one disaster to another. Thursday night at Ford Field, the Detroit Lions had their first preseason game against the New England Patriots. And, well, basically, if everything that could have went wrong did go wrong, it did on Thursday. The Lions were totally outmatched. Again, first game of preseason, so maybe not time to raise the press the panic button, but 31-3 getting gained almost 500 to 100. It was just an awful game for the Detroit Lions on Thursday.
I think it's a credibility check here. 414 showed on up. And that's close to their grand sellout of 65,000 that can get into the stadium there, and they all showed up to see a very poor game. Didn't get to see Matthew Stafford. They saw a whole heck of a lot of the brand new faces there, and for what little I looked at on telly, New England just mopped them up. I bet they came home on the plane just laughing their heads off of the damage they did to the Detroit Lions there. I call it during the first half when people started booing them. I just started laughing. That's all I could do was laugh there. But it was very, very bad. Very bad.
When you hear head coach Matt Patricia, after the game, use the quote, trust the process. And I understand he's the coach and it's his second year and it's something that he has to say. But as a Lions fan, a longtime Lions fan, I'm sorry, I got a little issue with trusting the process. A team that's won one playoff game and now 61 years and counting. It's the same old Lions. Doesn't it seem it's that way every year, Butch?
Yeah. How can you trust the process when you can't tell the truth about the quarterback? And he hadn't played for 5 games in a row. He didn't practice for 5 days in a row. He didn't play in the game, okay? I mean, if you're going to trust the process, you got to tell the general public the truth on what's really going on and what steps are going to be taken. Matthew Stafford last year, there's no secret to everybody, had a broken back.
Right.
And he played on a broken back. That's guts and more, okay, to do that. But, again, to recover from that there, no one's saying anything out in the open about the recuperation process that this man's going to be taking. And there's no doubt that this Matthew is still going through some wounds there. Now, this guy went through enough with his wife, and convalescing her and being supported back to her. And I know he doesn't need the additional static about his back and how he's playing and whatever it may be. And that I can understand where the Lions protect him in that form or fashion. However, again, when you have fans like you said, 60-something years that you don't have a decent product to present to the general public, it is very hard to trust the process. Myself personally, my question would be, what is your process?
Yeah. Detroit Pistons, Butch, released their 2019-2020 schedule today. They will start the season on the road at Indiana October 23rd, and then opening night will be at Little Caesars Arena against the Atlanta Hawks October 24th. You can hear the Pistons all season long right here on ESPN 1400. Some other highlights, Butch, the Raptors will be in Detroit December 18th, January 31st, the Warriors on March 20th, and LeBron and crew on March 22nd. So that looks like a good weekend of basketball at Little Caesars Arena. The season will be here quicker than you think.
In March, sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't forget their home game in Mexico City here on December the 12th here against the Dallas Mavericks here. I know everybody's running for tickets for that one here.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Standing room only crowd there in Mexico City. That'll be a barn burner there, personally speaking. That's another thing, too. One of the biggest rumors coming out the Pistons camp at this present time is they're going after Michael Beasley. This is rumors from the Detroit Free Press. Michael Beasley. Now, people don't know who Michael Beasley is. or not. Okay, Michael Beasley is a pretty good doggone forward. Sometimes feel like a nut, and sometimes he don't. He played in China for a couple of years. He's come back. He was picked up by the Los Angeles Lakers only to fail the physical there, and that's where he stands at this present moment. What in the world the Pistons want to pick him up for, I have no idea, but that's the rumors right now, as they're looking at Michael Beasley extensively there.
Butch Davis joining us on the game. Butch will join us in hour 2, along with E.J. Russell at the bottom of next hour at 7:30. Butch, this is the first official day of practice for the fall sports season in the state of Michigan, and wanted to get your take on a couple of the rule changes in football. And we talked about this earlier locally, but one of the things the MHSAA now is introducing is the ability to improve pace of play, or at least they hope so. All varsity games will be played with a 40-second play clock that will begin after the conclusion of the previous play, except when there's an exception like a penalty or timeout. And we were talking about, how that might affect some of the games early on. Maybe teams not used to this. Obviously, I don't think it's going to be a second clock that everybody can see. Probably the referee will be taking the timing of it. What's your thoughts on that? I think this potentially could really impact a few games, especially early.
Well, some of the richer clubs or Class A teams are going to have a clock to put out there near the scoreboard or somewhere where basically you can look at the time of what you have to go in the huddle or whatever it may be. I think the real problem is probably going to be the coaches, okay?
Yeah.
And the coaching is in there, or disagreeing with a call on the field where that clock is running and they go through the annex of what they normally do through the regular season that they can get away with heavily there now. That's going to be really the problem there. And then, your regular team is out there on the field there. They don't know what to do. And it has to be somewhat an issue when they had the meetings for all the coaching staff and whatnot. So you can't say the coaches are not aware of this. But, again, for this to be effective, and you said it, very tastefully here, they got to have some kind of clock on the field that basically will allow the players to know how much time they have in order to, dissect a play here. And a lot of the clocks, believe it or not, are set for basically using the 40-second time clock on their board there. The board that they have or they use to keep score with has that built in, so you can manipulate that where a 40-second clock go on there. But again, how many people are trained to use it, we'll never know here. And that's going to be probably a problem that if they don't work it out during these 2 to 3 weeks that practices going on or run the clock or whatever it may be, I could see this being a heavy problem during the season there. And that's something that we could take a look at there and maybe transfer that data to our fans later on during the beginning of the season in high school sports.
I like it. Butch Davis joining us on the game. Butch, we got a couple more minutes before the top of the hour break, and then we'll have hour 2 with myself, you, and E.J. Russell around 7:30. Any other news from the Metro Detroit area or things you want to share with our listeners before we get to our roundtable in hour 2? Open-ended.
Oh, boy. Well, we could talk about the Red Wings.
Sure.
And their season. They'll be on television, on national television, 8 times.
Oh, wow.
8 times. I can give you some dates, too, here.
I'm writing them down.
Wednesday, November. Really?
Yep.
Do you have them?
I don't.
Okay. Hey, Wednesday, November the 6th at the New York Rangers. That's NBC Sports Network. Sunday, January the 5th at Chicago, NBC Sports Network. Wednesday, January 22nd at Minnesota, NBC Sports Network. Monday, February the 3rd versus Philadelphia, a home game. Of course, that's on the NBC Sports Network. Thursday, February the 6th at Buffalo, NBC Sports Network. Sunday, February the 9th, Boston at home on NBC. Sunday, February the 16th at Pittsburgh, NBC. Thursday, March 26th versus Philadelphia. That's a home game, NBC Sports Network. And, of course, the rest of the games, you can see them exclusively on Fox or one of the affiliated stations that we have in Southern Communications. Right on your dial.
Well played. We can hear all Red Wings hockey games on WSOO 1230 AM. Butch Davis joining us here in hour one of the game. Butch, stand by. We're going to take our top of the hour break, and you and I will come back to start the round table, and then we'll try to invite EJ around 7:30. So lots more sports to talk about, especially nationally. So we'll talk to you here in a few minutes, my friend.
Yeah, it's going to be wacky here, buddy.
Yes, indeed. That's going to do it for hour one of the game. We're going to take our top of the hour break. We come back, we'll have hour two of the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national sports show, The Game, on ESPN 1400.
Hey, did you go out for breakfast?
Yep. Got a sausage McMuffin with egg from McDonald's, melty cheese, and a buttery English muffin. You?
Cereal. Just dry cereal.
You know, that kind of looks like what we feed the parakeet.
Yeah, it's probably why he's giving me the stink eye.
Good thing I got a McMuffin for you, too.
There's a better way to breakfast.
Whether you're hitting the road or hitting the ground running, wake up with an Egg McMuffin made with a fresh cracked egg at your local participating McDonald's.
The local housing market is competitive, and unless you have the right team in your corner, you might miss out on your dream home. That's why happy customers choose Old Mission Bank for their home mortgage needs. We provide quality service from the time you submit your application to closing and then through the entire life of your loan. Let our friendly, knowledgeable staff be your financial partner. Call or stop by to check out our competitive rates and all the other fast, simple solutions we offer at Old Mission Bank. We're located in Pickford and Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. FDIC insured, equal housing lender.
When it comes to adventure, you always want more. And the 2019 Honda Pioneer 1005 is built to give you more. More power thanks to a 999cc engine. More performance from a 6-speed automatic dual-clutch transmission with paddle shifters. And more fun with Honda's quick flip seating system that lets you go from a 3-seater to a 5-seater in seconds. So head to Elite Sports Center on the I-75 Business Spur and check out the 2019 Honda Pioneer 1005 today. For your safety, read the owner's manual, wear a helmet and eye protection, always wear your seatbelt, and keep the side nets and doors closed. Pioneers are for drivers 16 years and older.
Mo at MNC Water Systems has a solution for all your water needs. Want clean, fresh drinking water? MNC Water Systems proudly distributes natural, artesian water for all your bottled water needs. Cooler rental and bottled water delivery for your home and office are available. MNC Water Systems delivers to all the local islands, too. Need a water filter? MNC has them. Need a softener? Drinking water system? Want to find out about reverse osmosis? Call Mo at MNC Water Systems today at 906-647-7307, serving the Eastern Upper Peninsula for over 25 years.
Looking for the lowest prices and the best deals on quality used cars, trucks, or SUVs? Look no further than Road and Roth Motors. We have the largest selection of quality pre-owned certified vehicles ever, all priced below book, and all come with a 12-month, 12,000-mile warranty. It's our way of standing behind what we sell and guaranteeing you that you'll get the highest quality pre-owned vehicle only at Road and Roth Motors. Stop in and check out our largest selection ever, with prices starting at $49.95. I'm sure we'll have something for you. Don't forget to look for the hang tag specials. These units are clearly priced at or near dealer cost. Just another way we can save you even more money. Come see why all roads lead to Road and Roth Motors for Chevy, Buick, and GMC, the #1 volume dealer in the Eastern UP, at the corner of 3 Mile and Mackinac Trail in beautiful Sault Ste. Marie. Find us on the web or like us on Facebook. Chevy, find new roads.
Let's get to the second half of the game here on ESPN 1400, WKNW, Sault Ste. Marie's sports leader. It's the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national sports show. Now, here's Scott Nason.
And welcome back to the game on ESPN 1400, also heard online at thegamesportshow.com. Scott Nason for hour two here in our studios on 3 Mile, ESPN 1400, our broadcast engineer, Alyssa Bradley, tonight. Want to thank our guest in hour one, Dave Watson, for joining us, voice of the Sault High Blue Devils, as the Blue Devils will start their football season August 30th. at home against Sheboygan, in a game you can hear on our sister station, 1230 WSOO. We'll be joined at the bottom of the hour by E.J. Russell from Escanaba, Michigan, one of our 4 panelists. One couldn't make it tonight. Dave McKeag, host of the Game Sports Show in Sioux, Ontario, had some full-time job commitments, so he couldn't be here. Hopefully he'll be joining us next week. But we do have a round table with 2 people, including who we had last hour as our guest, Butch Davis from Butch On Sports. Butch, you still with us, and you ready to go for hour 2, my friend?
Yes, I am eating chocolate chip cookies.
I can hear that. That sounds really good. I have not eaten yet today, but we have a lot to talk about, Butch, so let's try to at least get one topic in here for this segment. I'm going to turn the mic to you, and you will give us our first topic on the roundtable. For those that are new to the show, hour 2, this is unscripted, unrehearsed. We throw out topics in the world of sports and give our opinions, some content, and, well, maybe some sanity, if you will, depending on the topic. So, Butch Davis, what would you like to bring up on tonight's roundtable, sir?
How much of the Premier League did you watch this weekend? The first weekend of the Premier League.
Oh.
I know it's your fave and whatever it may be. I could have went to WrestleMania or the Little League here, but I figure, let's get the ball rolling right here on the Premier League here.
Butch, you teed it up very high for me on that one, and I appreciate it because I usually can't drive a ball that well. This one I can. Premier League is probably... And for those, again, new to the show that haven't listened, we have a lot of new listeners on ESPN 1400. I'm a big fan of the Premier League. I think it is the best regular season in all of sports, and it's something I was exposed to, if you will, when I lived in England for a few years. I know, Butch, you're probably going to talk about that when you were in England, but it's just something that has a lot of passion, and it's the best soccer players in the world, or some of the best soccer players in the world. And Friday after work, I've flipped on my telly, as they say over in the UK, to watch Liverpool knock off a newly promoted team, Norwich City, by a 4-1 count. And boy, this year it looks very similar to last year, which you had a Liverpool team lose 1 match all year long. They play 38 matches in the Premier League. Liverpool lost 1, and they didn't win the title. It was Manchester City who ended up winning for the second straight year. They were in action early on Saturday. I watched some of that game, just absolutely demolishing West Ham United by 5-0 count. And probably my favorite time to watch the Premier League is around 10 a.m. on Saturdays, because they have about 4 or 5 games going on. And a lot of times it's not the best teams. You had some matches, I think Bournemouth and Sheffield United. That was a game. Our good friend Matt Pocket, a big Bournemouth fan here at Sovereign Communications, they tie 1-1 with Sheffield United. And when Sheffield scored that tying goal, again, the visiting fans, just the passion. They hadn't been in the Premier League in years, and just watching the crowd reaction, the players going to the crowd and just going absolutely nuts. It's so much fun to watch. There's so many different stories in the Premier League. And what I like about the Premier League is every week matters, because they have what I think would be a great system to implement in some of our sports here professionally in the United States. They have the relegation and promotion system. For those that are unfamiliar with that system, the Premier League has 3 teams that go down to the next level and 3 teams that rise up. And so every match matters. And so you have early matchups with these teams that are looking for points early. You want to snag them because you don't want to be chasing them later on. Tottenham Hotspur over Aston Villa 3-1. And yes, my team, Chelsea, they did not look good, Butch. They got rolled by Manchester United on Sunday by the score of 4-0. So to answer your question, am I happy the Premier League is back? Yes. Am I happy that Chelsea lost? No, but I'm glad to have it back, and it makes my Saturdays and Sundays a lot better in life. Butch, your thoughts on the Premier League?
Well, the Red beat the Blues.
They sure did.
And that was the game I got to watch here, and I was very happy. I'm sorry that you're sad, but here's the deal, and you made a good point. What if the Tigers had a bad year and they were relegated to the minor league system until they do good again? I mean, who'd have thought?
They may never get back.
I like that. I like that. About the Detroit Lions being relegated maybe to maybe go play in, I don't know.
XFL. Promote the XFL teams.
I mean, that would be a perfect deal. I mean, just think of it here, boys and girls. What punishment can you give a team not to go bad there? I mean, that was a good deal. That was a good deal. But just to say about the Premier League in general, what I saw the Sunday game with Chelsea and Man U. That was pretty doggone good, a expensive game for at least Man U there. And I mean, they beat Chelsea's brains out there. I've never seen a 4-0 match in soccer in a very long time. And I happened to see that one. And, looking at the standings of the 20 teams that are in the league there, Chelsea is, almost at rock bottom there, But, again, you got about 38 more weeks to deal with. And some of those particular clubs, including Chelsea, they do participate in the Champions League. Yep. We don't talk about that, but that's another phase of soccer that many people don't know about there. They do participate in other leagues. I mean, it's defend yourself at all costs here when it comes down to soccer, where, again, not only everybody in the UK kind of relish on it, but everyone in the world, in Italy, in Spain, in France, get to relish on it when it comes out to the Champions League there.
And Butch, one thing I wanted to add to that is just the amount of coverage and exposure the Premier League gets in the United States. It's really blown up over the last 5 or 10 years, mainly because of the network, obviously NBC Sportsnet carrying a lot of the games. You can catch all the games online, and you have now these teams in their preseason come over. I mean, you're seeing Chelsea, Manchester United, Arsenal, Liverpool playing in stadiums like Yankee Stadium, playing in the United States, and I think just of a league that has just blown up in the United States, I think you got to put Premier League right up there.
Premier League is at the top, okay? Because you know what? We don't do it with football here. No. We play maybe 1 or 2 games at a time here. We're talking about 5 games at a time on their networks, which is USA Network, CNBC, NBC Sports Network, the regular NBC network. USA is another network that they would use for the order to broadcast on a particular game. And they're all being used at that one time there. Plus, some cable companies relegate an alternative or alternate station that they're also watching the games there as well, so you can pick up maybe a couple more. So it's grand to do that, and you can flick the switch or whatever it may be, where versus the baseball games and the football games, you got to pay for it now. I remember a long time ago, the Red Zone, when it first came out, was free. Now you got to pay an X amount of dollars to see the Red Zone every doggone month while football is going on. And it's a good deal for NBC. NBC is right on top of the game when it comes down to showing some of the best sports in town. And right now, the Premier League is at the top of that game when it comes down to interest for everybody.
That really is. And again, every game matters because there's no playoff at the end of the year. You don't, finish in the top 4, then go to the playoff. Every game matters. Every point matters. And this year seems to be just that. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Butch, I have a little more of a serious topic I wanted to bring up because it's Detroit-based. Saw an article in the Detroit Free Press last week talking about Joe Murphy, the number 1 pick of the Detroit Red Wings in 1986. He also won a Stanley Cup championship with the Edmonton Oilers. He is reportedly homeless for the second time in 2 years and having some struggles with his mental health. According to the Free Press, Murphy has suffered several concussions during his career, and he has been in and out of homeless shelters in Kenora, Ontario, which is north of us. And apparently, he's gotten himself addicted to certain drugs, and he's 51 years old. He's received help, but he's adamant about not wanting help. He has not seemed to ask for help. The NHL Players Association, Alumni Association have tried to put him up in a room or try to help him out, but he's really struggling, Butch, and it's just a reminder of how some of these athletes and their physical and mental health is affected, along with many people in life. And I just wanted your thoughts on just Joe Murphy. It's just a really sad story.
It is a sad story indeed. He hasn't lost his pride, but pride goes only so far when it comes down to your natural health. an existence on this earth here. And right now he's struggling. The man is struggling very deeply here. And I'm quite sure he's had that particular help more than once. In that regard, I'm quite sure the Illich family and also the NHL Players Association has reached out in order for him to kind of get himself together there. But again, you can offer and you can give so much to people with this particular pride, but then you can't take him to the river to get a drink, okay? And it's sad, but something has to be done in order to save the existence, or because you hate to see something bad happen, and especially when you have done all you can to help someone, and maybe we're not giving, or maybe someone's not reaching out to give him the help he needs. Maybe he's not getting the conversation or be given the conversation where he can somewhat relate with in order so you can reach the guy. It's many phases, and as you know, you work with mental health a great deal. It's just not peaches and cream to try to reach out to someone when it comes down to giving them help. It's all kind of phases, and then you got to break through to get that person's attention, and that is the hardest thing to do, to get someone to open up. And right now, they, from what I've dealt with some of the colleagues that I've dealt with the Detroit Free Press, and talking about that, he's not opening up right now. He's in a shell.
Yeah, Butch, and I was just going to add to that, and you mentioned it, as somebody that works in the mental health profession. My full-time job here in Sault Ste. Marie, I work for a program called Clubhouse through Hiawatha Behavioral Health, and we work with individuals with challenges in all aspects of life, especially with mental health. And I guess what I wanted to get out of this is, if you know someone, if you are experiencing some issues, don't be afraid to ask for help or to seek treatment or just to get information out there. There's a stigma out there that a lot of us mental health professionals are trying to get rid of, and it's okay. But again, it's voluntary. You can't make someone do what they're not willing to do themselves. And what I like about the program that I run is people come down, and it's a voluntary program. They're not mandated to come down. They come down because it's helping them in so many ways. And so if you know of someone that is experiencing some mental health issues, reach out as best you can. End the stigma. That's my little PSA on mental health, and I wanted to bring that up during this topic. We're going to take a break here on the game. When Butch and I come back, it's Butch's turn. He's going to bring up a subject on the roundtable, and we'll talk more sports coming up next on the game. Heard online at thegamesportshow.com and right here on ESPN 1400.
When it comes to your family's medical equipment needs, you want the best care possible. Arfstrom Pharmacy Equipment and Supplies is here to help. The caring and knowledgeable staff will take the time to get to know their customers, understand their needs, and help them on a path to better health.
Hi, this is Andrew Miller, manager of Arfstrom Medical Equipment and Supplies. We truly want to be a trusted healthcare resource that cares for you and your family. We are always looking to carry new and improved products to enhance your daily living. We are now stocking the Hurricane Freedom Edition, the all-terrain cane, the cane that stands alone. Also, we proudly stock BioFreeze professional strength topical pain reliever in gel, roll-on, and spray options. The professional strength formula contains more of the active ingredient menthol, providing an improved and longer-lasting therapeutic effect compared to the original formula found at other retailers. Stop in and see why so many people choose Arfstrom to be their medical equipment and supplies provider.
Arfstrom Medical Equipment and Supplies is part of Arfstrom Pharmacy, a locally owned HealthMart pharmacy, ACHC accredited, located at 409 Ashland Street, downtown Sioux, Michigan. HealthMart, caring for you and about you.
Overacting?
Once more into the breach, dear friends, once more. Or close the wall up with our English debt. In peace, there's nothing.
Underacting.
Once more into the breach, dear friends, once more, or close the wall up with our English debt. It doesn't take a theater director to tell the difference between overacting and underacting, but it's not as easy knowing whether you're overinsured or underinsured. A low rate isn't a good thing if everything you hold dear, your family, your home, your future, isn't protected properly. That's why you have Farm Bureau of Michigan agent Dean Garlinghouse to take the drama out of making sure you have the coverage you need. Insurance is Dean's Life. Trust your future to Dean Garlinghouse to avoid poor coverage.
Alas, poor Yorick, I knew him, Horatio. A fellow of infinite jest, a most excellent fancy.
Oy. So you can get on with your life. Call Dean Garlinghouse at Farm Bureau Insurance today.
You can catch podcasts of the game at thegamesportshow.com. Now let's get back to it with Scott Nason here on ESPN 1400.
Welcome back to the game on ESPN 1400 and online at thegamesportshow.com. Scott Nason here in our ESPN 1400 studios on this nice sunny Monday evening. Joined by Butch Davis from Butch On Sports for our roundtable. Butch, I know there's a lot of rain predicted in your area. Has that come to fruition?
Supposed to get rain. However, now the weatherman say that particular storm that's supposed to flood us out of here, like Noah's Ark coming into town, is now pushed toward down south in Ohio here. So Ohio will now get the 3 to 6 inches of rain and stuff that was promised here in southeast lower Michigan below 8 Mile Road there. So we're going to get some rain, but not the pre-announced rain that everyone said that we're going to get, kind of batten the hatches and get the sandbag kind of stuff there.
Yeah, it's dry as a bone up here. We could use the rain, no doubt. Butch, let's continue the roundtable. We have time for at least one more topic in this segment, possibly two. So I'm going to turn it over to you again. You picked a great first topic. What would you like to talk about next?
We could talk about some dainty things here, like SummerSlam. Did you watch it last night? And if you did, what wins did you get out of it here? I mean, what fantasized you a lot more here?
Looking at it, I caught bits and pieces of it, Butch. I didn't see the whole thing, but I did happen to see the main matches or things that happened. Obviously, the main event was Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar, and I guess I was a little surprised that they gave, or I should say that Seth Rollins won that one. Don't want to give it away there. I almost felt like this was scripted or something. I thought that.
Oh, you was.
Yeah, right. I thought that was a decent match there. Brock Lesnar always does well in these matches, but Seth Rollins, he puts a lot of time in. I thought they did that one well. I like The Fiend with Bray Wyatt. I think they've done a really good job developing this character, and it took a while to get going with the Fun House or whatever it was. I like The Fiend. I'm thinking WrestleMania next year, The Fiend versus the Demon Finn Balor would be absolutely outstanding, if not beforehand. Kofi Kingston over Randy Orton, that one kind of disappointed me in a double count out. I thought the Charlotte Flair Trish Stratus match was good. I mean, I think Trish Stratus did very well for somebody that hasn't wrestled that long, and she did very well. Kevin Owens beating Shane McMahon. I mean, you had to have a Canadian win. You had Trish Stratus lose. You had Natalya lose. And so being that it was in Canada, it made sense to have Kevin Owens beat Shane McMahon. They weren't going to get rid of Kevin Owens. He's one of my favorites on the mic. The Goldberg-Dolph Ziggler one, it was expected. I mean, Dolph Ziggler sells better than anybody. I mean, it looked like a truck ran over him by the time he was done. So those are some of the things that I saw, Butch, in that. I mean, overall, was it the best SummerSlam ever? No, but I think they had a lot of good matches. And again, it's all gearing up towards the coming up here in a couple months with SmackDown going to the Fox network, and then you're going to have the competition with All Elite Wrestling on TNT. So it's going to be an interesting few months for wrestling. I'm really excited to see where this may take it. Will the Monday Night Wars start again, or whatever night the All Elite Wrestling is on? I think it's on a Wednesday at this point. I don't know if we're ever going to get back to that, but I like competition. It's good to have competition, and there's a lot of good wrestlers in this AEW. So wrestling in the future is looking pretty exciting for 2020. What are your thoughts?
Well, I saw bits and pieces of the SummerSlam too. I guess my best match was the Charlotte Flair and Trish Stratus match. I liked that match especially. To me, that was a humdinger. That was the match of the night here in my book here. Everything else you kind of expected. The Bray Wyatt incident with Finn Balor. I think you're right on the money there on when WrestleMania comes about, or maybe a little bit sooner that you'll see that demon of Finn Balor come on out there and deal with this. That ought to be a riot in itself there, and I think it's going to be built up to be something extra special. Amber Moon and Bailey was a very good match indeed myself there. I did get the chance to watch that match into its conclusion there. And you got to give Amber Moon a whole heck of a lot of credit. The athleticism that young lady gave Bailey was something to desire. And I think Bailey won that match, but I think she paid for it in soreness, and it's going to maybe take her a couple of days to get herself together because Amber Moon gave her everything that was expected for the money, to put down there. As far as wrestling in itself, building up there, and I think you put it in the shop itself, it's going to be fine. I think it's going to be fine. I think TNT or the Turner Network is going to get sneaky and end up adding some more wrestling to the expected Wednesday night extravaganza that they're going to be putting on in October the 2nd. That's going to be something special there. And, of course, you just mentioned SmackDown going to Fox, where they're exclusively going to be on a national network, and Fox is no slum bum when it comes down to kind of dressing up something really, really special. That Fox music in the background of the WWE, that, for years and years and years, Vince McMahon has catered with NBC Sports, which is a whole slew of stations that carried those major matches and whatnot there. The USA, especially when the WWF was once it was called, was the flagship station for what they do right now there, and some of that is going to be leaving versus Fox and their way of doing business. Fox, they love to get away money just to win a bid, and it was over $2 billion that they gave Vince McMahon to get SmackDown there. So they're not messing around there. They're going to have to put up a great, great product, and I do believe it's going to be happening there. Again, you got the All Elite Wrestling going about on the other network. That's going to be great. You get to see some wrestlers that we don't get to see every day, but usually see on the WWE network. It's going to be fantastic. As far as SmackDown, my grade on that would be a B-. But to me, the best match of the night was Chris Stratus and, yes, Charlotte Flair. But close second will be Bailey and Amber Moon.
Butch, one last question on this before we go to break and try to add E.J. Russell. You and me are big wrestling fans, and we have a lot of listeners around here that watch wrestling. And one of the products through the WWE, pretty much the developmental system, is NXT, which is new wrestlers coming up, and they put on a great product, and that's run by Triple H. He's the one in charge, and the WWE still is pretty much run through an iron fist with Vince McMahon. And the question I have for you is, at what point does Vince McMahon maybe try to turn over the reins? Because, I look at some of these NXT wrestlers who have come up and they've done nothing with. I mean, I look at Bobby Roode. He was a great talent down at NXT, and they brought him up and done nothing. And I think some of these wrestlers, Ember Moon, another one, we haven't seen much from her lately. She was huge in NXT. Is it time maybe that they, start looking at, obviously Vince is getting up there in age, and maybe his ideas from 20 years ago aren't as good now. Is it time maybe for Vince McMahon to step aside?
Well, you got now Paul Heyman in charge of Monday Night Raw now, and now you got Eric Bischoff, if you don't know, is now in charge of SmackDown. So I think things are going to be changing, hopefully for the better. Eric Bischoff, as you know, or if you don't know, he is from the Michigan area in Bloomfield Hills. I've known Eric Bischoff for a very long time. I know his brother here, and I got a hold of him a couple of weeks ago when I heard about the news. And I will try to get, and I'm going to make an attempt to see if we can get Eric Bischoff to give us some love here and give us some time on the air here and give us his point of what, phase that he's going to take in making SmackDown a better product there. And, you said it best. The McMahons have been running the asylum for quite some time there. And they have now giving the reins up to, again, Paul Heyman, who was the Extreme Wrestling King in Philadelphia, and, of course, Eric Bischoff, who we know who had NWA for many, many years, and matter of fact, was one of the few who put Vince McMahon's WWE or WWF in this place there. So it would be very, very interesting to see how this goes. And I do believe it was very much so done because you do have the AEW out there right now. It is going to be an exclusive thing as far as competition is concerned. And for maybe a Eric Bischoff or maybe a Paul Heyman to go over to their product and to add to what they have would have been a threat to Vince McMahon. So what better way to stop that action is to employ both of them and give them some money and give them some power to kind of make wrestling a little bit more, as I say, I'm going to use the word elite for the WWE there. But it's going to be exciting, like I said, and you said it best, for the next 2 months leading up to the Fox network and also leading up to TNT bringing wrestling back home, and that competition reigns supreme where you get to see a slew for a wrestler. And I'm quite sure some of those wrestlers we do not see, like Bobby Roode and whatnot, they're going to have some options in the way of their contracts. So they're either going to have to do something with them, or they're going to hop over to the fence to greener pastures, maybe in a league that right now will welcome them with open arms.
We're going to take our bottom of the hour break here in hour 2 of the game. When Butch and I come back, we're hoping to be joined by E.J. Russell from Escanaba, Michigan, who will join the roundtable. That's coming up next on the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national sports show, The Game, on ESPN 1400.
O'Connor's Chrysler Dodge Truck and Jeep in Pickford is your full-service dealership, servicing Pickford and the surrounding areas with pride for more than 50 years. O'Connor's top-notch body shop includes a state-of-the-art frame straightener. O'Connor's is also a proud supporter of community events. Its sales team has the experience to know which model is right for each customer. And with financing available to back your purchase, you can drive away today in your dream vehicle. Local people, local pride. Stop in today on M129 at O'Connor.
Reed Metals in Dafter, family owned and operated for over 35 years, is your honest, main source, one-stop metal recycling business serving northern Michigan. Bring your unwanted scrap metal or scrap vehicles to Reed Metals, and they'll print you a check. Reed Metals is open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., and Saturdays from 8:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Reed Metals will pay you for items like scrap vehicles, heavy equipment, catalytic converters, radiators, vehicle batteries, aluminum rims, copper, brass, lead, tin, auto cast, aluminum, steel, and many more types of recyclable metals, and they'll print you a check with your name on it. Reed Metals is the place that will give you great service and an honest price without surprise fees or deductions at the scale. Visit reedmetals.com or call 906-632-0018. Bring it in or have it hauled, and Reed Metals will print you a check with your name on it. Reed Metals, located just 11.5 miles south of the Sioux on South Mackinac Trail.
Hey, did you go out for breakfast?
Yep, got a sausage McMuffin with egg from McDonald's, melty cheese, and a buttery English muffin. You?
Cereal. Just dry cereal.
You know, that kind of looks like what we feed the parakeet.
Yeah, it's probably why he's giving me the stink eye.
Good thing I got a McMuffin for you, too.
There's a better way to breakfast.
Whether you're hitting the road or hitting the ground running, wake up with an Egg McMuffin made with a fresh cracked egg at your local participating McDonald's.
Let's get back to the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national sports show. Let's get back to the game on ESPN 1400.
Welcome back to the game on ESPN 1400 and online at thegamesportshow.com. Scott Nason broadcasting from our ESPN 1400 studios in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. Our broadcast engineer, Alyssa Bradley, doing a great job as always. We are continued to be joined by Butch Davis from Butch On Sports and our newest guest, contributor, and all-around good guy, EJ Russell, broadcasting from the Banana Belt, known as Escanaba, Michigan, to quote a Dave Watson phrase that we had on in the first hour. EJ, how you doing tonight, my friend?
I'm good. I really had quite the busy day in my other profession, but happy that I could make it. Was struggling to get here. I kind of had to run a little bit, so I'm sweating because I'm not a professional athlete like many of the guys that we talk about. But here, as always, and ready to get down to it, boys.
Well, we are excited, EJ, so let's go right now. Your turn for a topic. I'll go first and then Butch. So, EJ Russell, we've covered the Premier League. We've covered Joe Murphy and his issues. We've covered the WWE. So there's lots we haven't. What would you like to cover tonight?
Well, you guys know my passion is NFL football and college football, and we are at that point in the season where we get to talk about what can be. Now, with that being said, I want to talk about what is in the NFL and certain things that are existing right now. And I want to highlight a couple of different players and talk about what kind of risk would you guys think is appropriate for your team to take and what isn't. And what I'm speaking of is you have Antonio Brown in Oakland making a big deal about this helmet issue, which I fully understand. He wants to wear his preferred equipment, but also I think not necessarily taking the best care of himself with not wearing the correct footwear in the cryo chamber in order to get that cryotherapy. But then you also have a guy in Antonio Callaway for the Cleveland Browns, wide receiver, who's just tested positive and is being suspended for 4 games for breaking the league substance abuse policy. And then you also got a guy in Todd Gurley who may be getting his touches limited this next upcoming season. So my question for you guys is, and if you want to address these 3 players or one or any of them, I encourage that. But what risk is the proper amount of risk to you? What level are you comfortable with? And what do you want to see out of your team? We'd all prefer to have a perfect team come together and everybody cooperate. But the fact is that doesn't happen when you put together a 53-man roster. What do you guys think the proper amount of risk for these players or any other team for that matter?
Well, EJ, I'll go first, and I'll be pretty brief on this. You know, there's risk with anybody that suits up in any sport, and football being one of the greatest risks. And, you know, as if I'm a team owner, what I'm wanting first and foremost is my guys to be out there and not hurt. Now, that's easier said than done in the NFL. I mean, you look at the Lions preseason game Thursday, they had a wide receiver break his leg. You have Tom Savage, was the backup quarterback, go out with concussions. And so it's easier said to be done to get players to be safe out there. With Antonio Brown, he did lose his grievance against the NFL over wearing his old helmet, and the Oakland Raiders receiver should be returning to the training camp soon. He's also been dealing with frostbitten feet in a cryotherapy mishap in France last month. So the risk with Antonio Brown is great. Is it worth the reward? I guess we'll see. With a team like the Oakland Raiders, 4-12, they're featured on Hard Knocks. Had a chance to watch that last week. Always interesting. The team's featured on that. So with him, there's a lot of risk. With Todd Gurley, I mean, obviously there's a lot of risk. I got a chance to see him last year when they played the Lions, and he looked like he was just going to run over everybody. And then the playoffs come and you hardly see him. And you're seeing that with these running backs and the one back system. We don't have many out there. Ezekiel Elliott is one of those players. Barkley for the Giants is another, but most of these teams have more than one running back. So I don't know if that answers your question completely, EJ, but that's where I'm coming from as far as these players. Antonio Brown, big risk, but boy, there's a lot of reward when he's playing well. Todd Gurley, a lot of risk, but it's kind of as an owner, you want your guy to be healthy, but you also want to win games. It's a conundrum. I know Lions owners, they don't win many games, so I guess they don't have those worries. Butch Davis, your thoughts on EJ's topic, sir?
Well, I think EJ hit the nail on the head, and we discussed it the first hour with the Detroit Lions alone there and the Matthew Stafford incident there.
Yeah.
Here's a young man who basically no one knew until late in the season or after the season is over that he was playing with a broken back. And we did discuss, and I did discuss with our audience there, that he hasn't practiced for at least now 5 days in a row, and also did not participate in the exhibition game the Detroit Lions played the New England Patriots. I think, man, it's no secret for me that I think ownership owes the fans a lot more honesty about the player and being in touch with the particular audience that we have. When $46, and this is the lowest price for a ticket, is being spent to come in the stadium, you haven't brought or taken in a beverage, you haven't bought any food. They had a rib ceremony, the Rib Fest, downtown Detroit this weekend when I was down there to deal with the Detroit Tigers. That $46 would have went a long way with maybe 2 big slabs of ribs and all the beverages in town, and still had some change left to buy some victuals in order for a party of maybe 6 or 7. And we're talking about one person walking into a stadium for $46, haven't bought a beer or a bag of chips, and here you have an organization can't be honest about a particular player if they're going to play or not. And that goes for maybe Antonio Brown. And when Antonio Brown, the Raiders signed him, they knew they was getting some baggage with him. And to say with Gurley, they was very secretive about his injury status, and it did catch up with him in the Super Bowl. They did catch up with him in the last part of the season, and it's catching up maybe with him probably the beginning of this season there. The Callaway issue there, again, it surprised me when the coaches go to bat for the players and say, hey, look, wow, we're going to stick by him, we're okay with it. But again, the average fan maybe shakes their head and say, why did you get it? I mean, what is wrong with telling us the truth in the first place? It's not like we're going to put you on the punishment. But again, they want to know what's really happening. And maybe it's a responsibility for me as a reporter to really dig deep down and dirty to get that particular information, to spell it out to the fans. And I think I do a pretty good job of doing that. But again, these departments in football, the honesty ratio doesn't go in very far no more. So if many fans got a problem, they see that is to be one of the big ones. They want to see top-notch entertainment, and they don't want to be messed around with when it comes down to players not playing or teams not being honest.
EJ, great topic. Your thoughts?
Well, as far as the Antonio Brown situation specifically goes, Butch, I'm kind of right on par with you, Todd Gurley, and the fact that, maybe not all the information is coming out. And as far as, fantasy owners are concerned, there's risk there. Of course, many of our listeners are fantasy football fans and competitors such as myself. But with Antonio Brown, it's starting to get to the point where what level of risk is appropriate? Because this is a guy that has been, I'll say, extra dramatical. Okay, he wherever he's been, there's always been a level of drama there. And I was listening to another radio show on ESPN XM.
Very good.
And one thing was tossed out there that I actually felt was valid. And I heard them talking to an executive in the organization, Miami Dolphins. And the guy was talking about, boy, a lot of these rash decisions and things that Antonio's saying remind me a lot of Brandon Marshall. And for those of you who know anything about Brandon Marshall, is that he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And he struggles with his mental health. Not to say that he's an unhealthy person. He recognizes that now. But a lot of what you're starting to see with Antonio may make you think those kind of things. Is his mental health something that needs to be of a concern? And honestly, if I'm the Oakland Raiders, that's something that I think I need to address, because we're in a stage in the NFL where we need to be worried about our players' health. That's the reason Todd Gurley may be limited on touches. That's the reason that some players sit out in the preseason. They don't want to subject themselves to injury like the New York Giants are doing with Le'Veon Bell in the preseason, not necessarily making him have a full workload every day, giving him regular days off. Health is something to be of concern, and I think that we're in the state in sports right now where mental health needs to be concerned. I think that that's something that Oakland should look into with Antonio Brown, but you have to address it delicately. This is a very emotional man, and someone that I feel is very sensitive. As far as the Todd Gurley thing goes, you have to watch his workload, okay? You need him in December, January, February. You don't need him to be full tilt at the beginning of the season. You need him at the back of the year when you're making a playoff push. So keep him healthy. Do whatever you have to do to make that happen. Yes, it'll upset fantasy owners, but if you can get him at a good value in the second round, take it. But the Antonio Callaway thing I wanted to talk about real quick, and I'll try to keep it brief. This is a player on an organization that has attempted to help a guy that has struggled with substance abuse in the past. Antonio Callaway has a sketchy past. He tested positive for marijuana at the NFL Combine, was also cited for possession of marijuana while driving under suspended license last August. And then there were a few other things like bullets and parts of a gun that were found in his vehicle. If you're the Cleveland Browns, I say that you gave this guy a pass. He didn't come out and tell you the truth last year about the incident in August. This is something you need to cut. This is something that as an organization on the rise, you need to address immediately. And we don't need that in the Cleveland Browns organization. I say we, like I'm a part of it as a fan, though. But the Cleveland Browns organization, I think, as a fan, needs to cut ties with Antonio Callaway. Rashard Higgins has been exceptional. You have Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry that can both take the top off of defense. I don't care how fast Antonio Callaway is. Clean up that locker room, get him gone, because that level of risk right there, a guy with the history that clearly hasn't done everything in his short time in the NFL to prove that he's worth it or cares enough to correct it. Cut ties now. That kind of an issue, that kind of a player, not worth the risk to me.
We're going to take our final break here in hour 2 of the game. When EJ, Butch, and I return, we're going to have another topic on the roundtable and finish the show with our thumbs up and thumbs down for the week. That's coming up on the game, online at thegamesportshow.com, and right here live on ESPN 1400.
Paul Thompson here with Gaylor Thompson Sales and Service, just off I-75 in Rudyard, inviting you to stop in and see the largest selection of equipment in the Eastern Upper Peninsula. To complement our full line of Mahindra tractors, we have trailers including goosenecks, dumps, cargos, car haulers, and utility trailers. We also have a full line of lawn and garden equipment with Cub Cadet and Exmark. Over 50 mowers to choose from, a full line of parts, and we service what we sell. Looking for an outdoor wood or pellet furnace or parts? We stock water pumps, exchangers, PEX supplies, and more. Also, check out our full line of Boss and Fisher snow and ice equipment. Here at Gaylor Thompson and Rudyard, we are open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and Saturdays, 9 to noon for your convenience. Just off I-75 in Rudyard, 30 minutes from the bridge. If you need it, we have it. Give us a call at 906-478-3026. Hope to see you here.
The local housing market is competitive, and unless you have the right team in your corner, you might miss out on your dream home. That's why happy customers choose Old Mission Bank for their home mortgage needs. We provide quality service from the time you submit your application to closing and then through the entire life of your loan. Let our friendly, knowledgeable staff be your financial partner. Call or stop by to check out our competitive rates and all the other fast, simple solutions we offer at Old Mission Bank. We're located in Pickford and Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. FDIC insured, equal housing lender.
When it comes to adventure, you always want more. And the 2019 Honda Pioneer 1005 is built to give you more. More power thanks to a 999cc engine. More performance from a 6-speed automatic dual-clutch transmission with paddle shifters. And more fun with Honda's quick flip seating system that lets you go from a 3-seater to a 5-seater in seconds. So head to Elite Sports Center on the I-75 Business Spur and check out the 2019 Honda Pioneer 1005 today. For your safety, read the owner's manual, wear a helmet and eye protection, always wear your seatbelt, and keep the side nets and doors closed. Pioneers are for drivers 16 years and older.
You can catch podcasts of the game at thegamesportshow.com. Now let's get back to it with Scott Nason here on ESPN 1400.
Welcome back to the game on ESPN 1400 and podcast at thegamesportshow.com. Continuing our roundtable discussion on the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national sports talk show, The Game, with our panel, Butch Davis from the Metro Detroit area and Butch On Sports, and EJ Russell from Escanaba, Michigan. And we're going to have time for at least one more topic, possibly two. And I wanted to bring up, and Butch, I'll give you first crack at this. I watched, in addition to the Premier League this weekend, I watched a lot of games that didn't mean a whole heck of a lot. Week 1 of the NFL preseason. We already talked about the Lions game. Don't need to talk about that anymore. But I wanted to bring up to the panel tonight is, and I know the NFL has talked about it. We've talked about it on our show. The preseason, the schedule as it is, 4 games. 2 of them mean absolutely nothing. You don't see starters in most of these games. Can the NFL actually take a serious look at changing this? Why do we have 4 preseason games? Why do we have people paying all this money to see 95% of the players that probably won't even be playing for the most part this season? Is it something that you like that should stay the same? Do you want to change it? If so, how would you change it? Butch, I'll go to you first and then EJ.
Well, I would take away 2 of the preseason games there. They're not needed. They're not wanted. You actually, football players, when it gets down to the real nitty-gritty, the 3rd game of the preseason is their test game, and then they don't play anymore. Then now you have that one game where you find out what players you're going to keep and what you're going to cut there. The season is long enough. They have talked about pulling the 2 particular games, making them 18 games a season, where it will be mandatory for every player to at least play 16 games if they're going to play. I don't think that's going to work. I think what needs to happen is they need to shorten the preseason, or if they have a preseason at all, okay, they got to have some kind of base where they get themselves together. So 2 games will be good enough. Start the 16-game season, with a bang a little bit earlier there, where maybe some inclement weather won't be a factor during the later part of the year in December and January. Football's going all the way up to February now. It's ridiculous there. Shorten the season in the preseason mind, give them a chance to get itself together, maybe have a camp for maybe 2 weeks before you have a preseason, and that's how I would settle it.
EJ, your thoughts on this topic, sir?
Surprise, I disagree with Butch. I wholeheartedly disagree with you on this, Butch. I think that the NFL schedule as it fits right now is perfect. We've discussed, and you mentioned it, Butch, the idea of the NFL going to an 18-game schedule and requiring players to play 16 games. How does that work? I mean, how would you feel as a fan if you paid $100 for a halfway decent ticket in the upper deck, only to find out that your favorite player is not playing that game as a healthy scratch because he can only play 16 out of 18 games? That makes no sense to me. I don't see the NFL discarding having 20 games on air between the preseason and the regular season. They make that money. They're not going to shorten the game to a 2-game preseason schedule. I also don't think that that's beneficial to the league or the teams to go to that. And the reason that I say that is because you have 90-something men that are fighting for 53 of the hardest jobs to earn in all of professional sports. And without the preseason, you don't get moments like you got for the Cleveland Browns, which I'll even tell everybody right now is my thumbs up for the week. Sheehy Giuseppe, a guy that was sleeping outside of the gym, spent his last dollars to get to Cleveland Browns training camp, fake knowing Alonzo Highsmith just to get an invite to training camp, shows up, and then in his first NFL punt return, 2-time JUCO All-American, returns it to the house for a touchdown. The Browns go on the field and mob him. You don't get that moment in the regular season. These guys that are struggling to make the team need these 4 games to prove their worth. A lot of them, no, they're not going to make the team. But I'll tell you this. We talked about Hard Knocks earlier. Hard Knocks ain't going to be a two-show special. You need 4 or 5 episodes to make that worth it. And the NFL makes money on that. The NFL makes money on the preseason schedule. And the NFL makes money on their 16-game schedule. We see guys breaking down at the end of that 16-game schedule physically. In my opinion, there is no way that as a league, if you're going to pretend that the health of the players is something that you care about, that 16 games, more than 16 games is healthy for them, I think that there's no way that these teams find out who their backups need to be without those 4 preseason games and giving these guys a shot to make it. It's not just about giving these guys a shot. It's about getting these teams prepared for the regular season. They know who their starters are. They know who the guys that are getting the big money that need to play are. Those 4 games are perfect. Maybe shorten it to a 3-game schedule if you want to add a 17th. That's not something I'm opposed to. Make it against a non-divisional opponent. I just don't see how 18 games or a shorter preseason schedule either A, helps the teams get better, or B, keeps the players' health in mind.
Butch, I'll give you a chance to reply to EJ here in a moment. I'll be brief. I agree more with you, I think, than EJ. I just think that there's too many games in the preseason. I think they're not needed. I think you avoid injuries. I think you avoid a lot of things by cutting 2 games. Will the NFL do that? Will the owners do that? Absolutely not, because it's about revenue. It's about money, and there's 20 games that are televised and 20, you have 10 home gates with those preseason games. I don't see any way that the owners are going to get together and say, you know what, we need to cut a couple of these games. I think they should. I think preseason football for the most part is ridiculous in the 1st and 4th week, so you can get rid of those. I understand where you're coming from, EJ, as far as, the individual battles, and great. I think those could still happen in a 2-game preseason schedule. Butch, I'll give you a chance to reply, and then EJ, I'll give you the final word.
Well, first of all, EJ, it's not me that is writing these tickets. It's the NFL writing the tickets. That's what the NFL wants to do. The NFL wants to make an 18-game season and take away 2 of the preseason games. That's not me. No, I agree with you wholeheartedly there. But, again, I think the NFL exhibition season is a joke. 57,000 people and some change went down to Ford Field. Matthew Stafford didn't play. And again, I just repeat again, for 5 games, no one see heads or tail of Matthew Stafford even participating or taking part in there, or even the Lions taking responsibility in finding out what's going on. Is it poor reporting? Yes, it is, because you got to put the pedal to the metal on the Lions staff to find out what's happening and what's going on there. But to take people's money like that, okay, and just throw it away, it's ridiculous. I say, the Cleveland Browns situation, that was a great one. What about the guy with the Buffalo Bills who played rugby football and got the ball for the first time, and he went to the house with it? I understand that too. Those are things I love to see, and hopefully that can continue there. But you don't need no 4 games to put injury on the battle line there and take people's money. Make it a 2-game season. You want to extend training camp. A lot of the teams now, they go upon themselves. For instance, the Detroit Lions this week are going to have practice in Houston, Texas. They're going to beat up on the Houston Texans, or the Houston Texans going to beat up on the Lions before they even have a game on Thursday. A lot of the teams are doing that anyway. So let that be the market behind the scenes in the practices there. 2 exhibition games, and hey, let's get on with the season.
EJ, I'll give you 1 minute for final word.
There's no way that you can properly evaluate all of these preseason players in any less than 3 weeks. I'll even give you a game, Butch. Game 3 is the dress rehearsal. 1, 2, and 4, though, give those players an opportunity to shine. You mentioned 2 excellent, the Browns and the Bills, 2 excellent examples of why the preseason is important for those guys. I just don't think that there's a need to play those starters in their games. I don't think that anybody shows up to a preseason game thinking that you're going to see Matthew Stafford, Baker Mayfield, Ben Roethlisberger, Tom Brady, Drew Brees. You're not going to go to a preseason game expecting to see them. Even the fact that 57,000 people still showed up to the Lions game, even knowing that the starters weren't going to play, I mean, there's no way that the owners are going to sacrifice 2 of those, because I'll tell you what, I have no interest in going to a game knowing with the way that the NFL is proposing the rule, with players being limited to a 16-game schedule, that I'm going to go watch my favorite player be a healthy scratch. I'd be more upset by that than by going to a preseason game and knowing that my favorite player is not playing.
More to come on this.
57,000 went down there and saw that at Ford Field, and that's a shame. During the halftime, with the boo section went on there because they didn't see the famous players there.
40,000 of those. 40,000 of those people knew that the starters weren't playing, so the other 17,000 need to be more realistic.
Well, you can't say that there, so let them in for free.
And 40,000 were drunk being there to pay those prices to see the Lions. Let's get to our thumbs up.
To the Red Press, like I said, it got more out of that $46 for that particular ticket.
Yeah, and they're broke too at the prices. Let's get to our. We got to get to our.
I would have bought you.
Yeah, indeed. Let's get to our thumbs up.
Well, and had a good time and drunk well and went home and got a ride on the cab.
All right, guys, quick. We got 2 minutes. Let's get to our thumbs up and thumbs down for the week. We could do this all day, but we'll do it next Monday night here on ESPN 1400. My thumbs down, Lions, Tigers. I mean, geez. I mean, yeah, the Tigers split against Kansas City. They're 35-80. The Lions didn't even get 100 yards of offense in a meaningless preseason game. Thumbs down to both those teams. Thumbs up. Premier League is back, baby, all weekend long. 37 more match days along with others. I love it. The best regular season in all of sports. Every game matters in the Premier League. Let's see. Butch Davis, your thumbs up and thumbs down for the week, sir.
Okay, thumbs down again for the umpteenth week to Detroit Tigers and their shenanigans there. It just don't make no doggone sense. I'm so sorry. And thumbs up to a particular person. We lost him this weekend. I had a personal knowing this guy name. His name is Daryl Drake. He is the wide receiver coach, presently for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He died overnight on Sunday evening there. He was 62 years old. I first met him in Louisville, Kentucky on vacation when I was 16 years old, and he was about 14. And we hit it right on off. He lived right down the street. He eventually went to Western Kentucky. I was going to the University of Oregon at the time. We kept each other's phone numbers, and we still to this doggone day keep up with each other. It is sad for me to hear about the death of Daryl Drake. He is sorely missed. The Steelers haven't had practice for 2 days there, but again, rest in peace, Daryl Drake, a great, great guy.
Thank you, Butch. EJ, we got about 40 seconds real quick. Your thumbs up and thumbs down.
Thumbs up. Sheehy Giuseppe, unknown wide receiver for the Cleveland Browns, trying to make the team. Was sleeping outside of a gym, faked his way to knowing somebody in the front office in order to get a tryout. Is in training camp with the Cleveland Browns and took a punt to the house the other day in their first preseason game. The whole team jumped on him. So thumbs up to Sheehy Giuseppe. No thumbs down this week. Second thumbs up to the Cleveland Indians. Best 118-game start in baseball since 1999 for themselves, and really positioning themselves to take over the AL Central and bump the Twins either into the wild card or out of the playoffs.
That's going to do it for the game here on ESPN 1400. I want to thank Butch Davis, EJ Russell, our special guest Dave Watson, broadcast engineer Alyssa Bradley. We'll be back next Monday night for another edition of the game here on ESPN 1400.
Thanks for listening to the game here on ESPN 1400 WKNW, Sault Ste. Marie's sports leader. Check us out next Monday at 6 for the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national sports show. You can hear the podcast of the show and other broadcasts at thegamesportshow.com.